It's now time to dive into our fourth and final topic, quantum computing, moderated by Susan Orr. Susan covers technology, startups, venture capital, and commercialization for IBJ. She's the author of our weekly IBJ Tech newsletter, which is packed full of information about tech companies, leaders, and events. You can sign up for that newsletter at ibj.com. Susan will introduce our final guest today, Tom Dockich, CEO of Quantum Corridor. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you. Well, I'm here with Tom Dockich. He is an attorney, and he is also the CEO of Quantum Corridor, and we'll be spending our time delving a little bit into what Tom's company is trying to do. So let's just...
And he's hoarse because he's been talking so much about trying to raise money, so I'm a little hoarse today. I apologize.
All right. So let's start out with just a basic definition. I know a lot of people probably have heard of quantum computing, may not exactly be sure what it is. As I understand it, it's sort of an evolving field of computing that uses a different way to transmit data. So you're not using ones and zeros, but you're using subatomic particles. And the idea is that it's so powerful that it can potentially solve basically problems that would be almost impossible to solve conventionally. Is that about the nut of it?
Yeah, so I'm going to globalize this a little bit. There's been two moments in the history of physics in the history of the world that have been revolutionary. The first one is Newtonian physics. And I know this is going to be a little heavy, but Newtonian physics was essentially gravity, it hits the ground and all that sort of stuff. The second one was in 1905, I think it was 05, 06, when the theory of relativity was created or discovered or penned by Albert Einstein. Those are the two biggest moments in the history of the planet in terms of our physical relationship with the world. The quantum is going to be as big as that, if not bigger. The creation of the movement of subatomic particles, the identification of subatomic particles, and the ability to control them and to take data and move it throughout controllable spaces to do controllable things is going to be as important, if not more important, than what we talked about here in Newtonian physics and the theory of relativity. Now that sounds very theoretical. Let me make it really pragmatic. So when we're in a race, and I thought Senator Young's speech was right on when he talked about the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. That is a real threat to American dominance. That is a true threat to our way of life. The way that we interact with the rest of the world is going to change based upon a concept called quantum supremacy. Quantum supremacy means somebody's going to be in a position where they understand quantum relationships and they understand the capabilities of that before other countries. I've been in data centers my whole career. In data centers, you go to places like Columbus or Phoenix. In the quantum world, you go to places like Jakarta and Tokyo and Paris, and because that's the group of people that are paying attention to this. When I'm going to be a little name dropping here. I was in Paris at a quantum conference about 9 months ago, and the prime minister of Paris was talking to our group, and he said, at one point we were the most important country in the world. At one point there was a time when our empire stretched where the sun would never set on us. He said, we're going to go back to being that kind of a world leader. We're going to go back to being the France of 500 years ago because we're invested extremely heavily in a company called Pascal, which is the French equivalent of Microsoft, the French equivalent of IBM. And that's the way governments are approaching this. Global governments, global people are paying attention to the concept of let's create quantum supremacy. And so Indiana has a smidgen of a chance to become a leader in that.
Okay, so let's go to the Quantum Corridor itself. Tell me what it is that your organization is focused on doing in terms of building this network for quantum computing?
So AT&T does this so well, and they should probably be sitting here instead of me, but the ability to move, the fiber is, somebody asked a question about fiber, the importance of fiber, and fiber I would submit that regardless of what happens, the world's going to pay more attention to fiber than, as technology advances, there's a more need for fiber in the world. I think that what we're trying to do is what you guys do at AT&T is you create broadband, you make people's lives better. That it is unparalleled, the amount of attention you should get for that, because you guys literally change the way that people live, talk, and act. What we're trying to do at Quantum Corridor is take these big, massive amounts of data that are only interesting to other people who have interest in these big, massive amounts of data, and let them communicate.
So this would be a network not just for everyday computing, but this would be a network dedicated to handling quantum computing, correct?
We cannot do what they do. We will not do it there. It's not built for that. What it's built for is to make it such that a scientist who's sitting at the University of Chicago can communicate with a scientist who's sitting down at Crane, and they can transmit not a voice, not internet, but a massive amount, a 40 terabit chunk of data at a time. And today, the need for that is somewhat limited. There's not that many people producing that much data that needs to transfer across any discernible amount of space. But as you heard Senator Young talk about, that day is rapidly coming here. And Indiana, because of our geography, a whole bunch of reasons that I go into, but Indiana is uniquely positioned. So what we've done is we've taken our network, which starts at 350 Cermak in downtown Chicago, goes to a data center in Hammond, which is called Digital Crossroads, that when Ed Soliday was talking about the data center bill of 2019, what he was authored, but I kind of helped him with, that we built that there, and now we're going to distribute across Indiana.
Okay, and this might be a good time if we could go to my third slide and show a map. So as I understand it, the very first part of the network, it's a little bit hard to see, but the green part up in the northwest corner of the map, that is the part that has been built, correct?
That's correct. We got Ready Grant money. We threw some money up together with ourselves, and that actually exists today. So the only coherent network in the Western Hemisphere that is able to communicate these massive amounts of data that are required in order to make quantum computers really work. The only network in the United States is that green line right there.
And remind us, when did that come online?
October of, I'm losing my COVID days. October of 23, it actually worked.
Okay. And then, talk to us about, I know what you're working on now is to get that little green line eventually extended all the way down to Crane, correct?
So some of the biggest technology companies in the world, basically, Juniper, Toshiba, Cisco, Convergent, all these companies kind of came together with this technology. And the goal is to break this down to Purdue, to make it such that the robotics that we just heard about is going to be able to communicate with Fermilab and all the other people that are in the Chicago Quantum Exchange. They're all going to be able to communicate off of that red line, which will extend down to, basically, as you can see, down to Crane. The legislation that we talked about, HB 1601, is designed specifically to make it such that the best researchers in the world could communicate directly with the people at Crane and along the other parts of this to bring a defense industry to the state of Indiana.
Okay. So then just looking at the part between Hammond and Crane, what is your expected timeline? Like how soon might that be built?
So we've already ordered the equipment. The equipment was very expensive. It's $80 million or something. We've ordered that equipment, and we have an anticipated date of getting that equipment available in less than 12 months. In the process of putting it in the ground, we should be, hopefully we're going to be ready in 26 months.
Okay. And what, it sounds like a really expensive project, and you referenced when we started looking for funding sources. So what, when you're thinking about maybe just the parts at Crane, what is the price tag on that, and where are you thinking that the money may come from?
So we own the green part, which we put $27 million into. The blue part is along the toll road, and that's included somewhere in that $27 million. That's under development. We own that. We have those rights, and we move that. We're moving non-quantum enabled electrons that way. The rest of it's roughly $240 million. And we've got to go. We're in the process of raising it. We've got some of it's going to come, although the continuing resolution that is going to get passed is not really helpful. Senator Bank and Senator Young have been wonderful about getting us access to compute power. That would be helpful. And so the CR that's going to apparently pass this week is going to freeze all that defense funding. But everybody's in the same boat on that. But so some of it's going to come from, there's some ready money ready to, but the vast majority is going to come from investors from New York and Barcelona.
Okay. Okay. So talk to us about the big picture. Like, why do you think this is so important? What will this do for Indiana if this gets built out the way you envision? What edge could that give the state?
So I'll refer back to Senator Young's comments. What we do, this is how I explain it. So today, ICBMs are intercontinental ballistic missiles. We have them. And this is not a bad thing, but when a really small person, let's say a 100-pound woman, is walking down the street and a big man comes up and he says, I'm going to beat you up, right? I'm going to beat you up. That woman's in trouble. Okay, this is a little outfield, but this is kind of the way I express. Brad Ratajka is back there saying, what's he talking about? But when that's going to happen, the man is probably going to win. I mean, big man's going to beat him. Well, when he introduces a gun into the fight, if he pulls out a gun, now it's a whole different fight because the woman just has to get the gun from the man and she will win the fight. So the reason that's important is because in the defense of the United States, which is the federal government's basically become a healthcare company with an army, basically. That's what the federal government really is now. If the United States is going to have to defend ourselves by shooting an ICBM, which someday that's probably, God forbid it's not going to happen, but someday it's going to happen. If we don't have quantum supremacy as a country, if we don't control that missile is going to get in the air, somebody is going to reroute it. Somebody's going to reroute it and send it back at us. Now that's not theoretical, that's not like, oh my gosh, Tom, you're being fatalistic. That is really an objective of the CCP. So if we don't have quantum supremacy as a state, our entire defense, as a country, our entire defense infrastructure is imperiled, and it will be used against us. The state of Indiana, we're in a spot where the most important spots for research are being done at the University of Chicago, Fermilab, Purdue, and these places here, connecting those, going out to Fort Wayne. Fort Wayne's got this robust defense ecosystem out there that's growing. But if we focus on where the most important defense research is going on, Crane is in that conversation. So making it such that Crane is connected to the unbelievable research that's going on at the University of Chicago and at Purdue is our goal. We as a state cannot hope that it's going to come here because Illinois is ahead of us, Colorado's ahead of us, Maryland is ahead of us. Those states have got some of the biggest quantum companies in the United States are headquartered there, and they're driving this here. Well, Indiana's got Crane. Indiana has Purdue. So connecting those will put us into that market. I'll say one more thing about it. I'll answer your question a third way, which is HB 1601 is, I weaponize this. What this basically says is we're going to be the first state to create tax credits for bringing your quantum networking, your quantum investment into the state of Indiana. Now, nobody else, when we filed this, Representative Soliday and I worked on it all summer long. When we filed this, nobody paid attention for about 3 weeks. And then all of a sudden, I got calls from people saying, hey, I'm in Maryland. Can I see your work product on this? No, I'm not showing you this. Illinois, so now this almost the same verbiage that we've used in Indiana has been filed in 4 other states. So we're on the forefront right now.
So it's a competitive space then?
It is very competitive. And the investment, I mean, I'm trying to raise $10 billion to come to Indiana to do this.
All right. Well, I think we're about out of time, so I think we will leave it there. But thank you so much, Tom. You've given us a lot to think about.
Thank you.